Welcome to another episode of Leaderonomics show, and today we'll be speaking to Scott Friedman. Scott Friedman is an interesting guy, and he's what we define as a motivational humorist. He's an expert on engagement, on innovation, and also on celebration. He calls himself the Chief Celebration Officer at Friedman Associates, his organization, and he's the former president of the National Speakers Association, and he's a much sought after speaker. So join me now as we journey to explore the leadership of Scott Friedman. Scott, welcome to Malaysia. Great to have you here. You know, you're a facilitator of learning. Tell us what that is and what that means.
Well, today in speaking and training, it's more important to be a facilitator of learning than just a trainer. And the difference is, as I like to tell my audience, is there's a lot more wisdom in front of me than there is in front of them. So in a 1 hour or a one-day training program, how can we take the wisdom in the room and make sure that everybody leaves with more of it?
And speaking of wisdom, I mean, you've written a number of books, and hence have your own pearls of wisdom.
Because I'm old, so I had a chance to write.
I think you're a little less hair than you. So, but that aside, no. Speaking of wisdom, I mean, tell us a little bit about you. Talk. One of your books is on celebrating.
Yes.
It says celebrate lessons learned from the world's most admired company.
Yes.
And also you talk about celebration, not in terms of just celebrating with your employees, but also celebrating with your customers. Tell us what those two things mean and how you would do that. I mean.
Well, celebrate lessons learned from the world's most admired organizations. We did research and interviews in 35 countries to find out how people engage and connect with their employees and their customers around the world. We wanted to learn those special little things that the world's most admired companies are doing. So we came up with all kinds of things of great companies that, so for instance, it's how we define the word celebrate.
Okay.
It's to acknowledge all that is good. The good work that you do, the people that you do it with, the people that you do it for, the milestones along the way, your to-do list becoming your to-done list. And sometimes, so it's really just it's a way of looking at things. It's changing your lens, change your language, you change your life. Can I give you one example?
Sure, please do.
And I think this, if your learners or your listeners could take this away. Sorry, I have this little. This is one way that we celebrate. This little squeaker in my pocket. I'm going to move this just for a minute, but
so that's a celebration.
It's a
gadget.
celebration because it's in any way anything could become a celebration. See, like this little bald spot right here could be.
Hey, I should use that. You know?
I'll set it aside.
Fantastic. No, that's great. But you know, so how about celebrating your customers? How does that work?
Well, your customers want to be honored.
Yeah.
Today, in order to win your customers' business, not only do you have to have the solutions to their problems, but they want to feel good. They want to be celebrated. Yeah. So it's how do we surprise our customers? How do we go that extra step so that they know that we really care about them? One of my favorite companies in the way that they celebrate their customers is the Royal Plaza on Scots in Singapore.
Okay.
They have when you register online, they have a little box that says, "What can we do for you?" And people type in the craziest things.
I'm sure you do too, right?
Well, I'm a little crazy. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some crazy things?
So like this guy writes in, he says, "Hey, your laundry prices. It's cheaper for me to buy a new pair of underwear than it is to get it cleaned at your hotel." So he wrote that in, and when he checked into his hotel, he probably had forgotten he wrote this. And he checked into his hotel. He walked into his bathroom, and there was a pair of underwear, boxer shorts, colorful boxer shorts for every single day of the week. That's where they celebrate, they surprise.
And that was for him.
That was for him, right? So he says, "Hey, you don't have to clean there's 5 pairs for you." So
there you go. No, that's great. And how did you get to this understanding of celebration? I mean, was there a point in your life? I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the space and how you came up with some of these.
Well, I've been a motivational humorist for 29 years now.
Well, you look really young. So.
I started at 7.
Yeah,
so
okay, that makes sense now. Yeah.
But in 1985, I was president of a group called Sales Professionals, where we'd have a motivational sales speaker every Tuesday. I ran into Cavett Robert, who founded the National Speakers Association, and he told me I had a unique style and I should become a professional speaker. And at the time, I didn't realize he said that to everybody. But I'm glad I didn't realize that because I would have.
Well, this was when you were 7, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
And so I decided, I'm gonna become a professional. I'm gonna try become a. I loved ideas. I read a lot of books, and so basically along the way, I read a lot and I asked a lot of questions, and I care about people. And so fast forward 27 years before I wrote the book Sell-le-brate, I was here in Malaysia, and I was at the HRD Congress that you spoke at. Great job the other day, by the way. And we were doing a field trip to Petronas Leadership Center, and a man that I served at the time on the board of advisors of SMR with said to me, he says, "You're working on a new book?" And I said, "I'm working on a book called What the World's Most Admired Organizations Do to Attract and Retain Talent." And he goes, "It's too broad." He says, "Narrow it down." So he started asking me questions about my life and what was unique about me as that author. And we came up with, I'd love to celebrate. I love people's success. I love to celebrate people's success. You know, when any
opportunity.
Yeah, right. And here in Asia, there's so many holidays. There's such a diversity of cultures. Great. That's a chance to celebrate all the time.
But you notice, I mean, you mentioned to me before, you noticed that in Asian context, you know, we don't celebrate so much. We in fact, it's a taboo to kind of smile and have fun and have offices like here.
I get asked that a lot. They say, well, how does celebration or how does humor in the workplace, how does having fun work here in Asia? Because a lot of times CEOs in Asia, they'll say if you're having fun, you're goofing off. If you're laughing, you're not getting the job done.
You all heard that, right? Yeah, okay. Anyway.
But it doesn't work here because but if you look at the studies today, there's such a war on talent, especially in Asia, and well-being is so important. And how do we take care of our employees? If they're having more fun, if they're allowed to be the authentic selves, if they can practice self-expression, they're going to be more innovative, they're going to be more creative.
Absolutely.
Performance and productivity rises. So it's a powerful concept. It's just getting CEOs used to accepting it. But once they do, they see that it really works.
And as individuals, we all like to be celebrated, I mean, to some extent. Right?
Yeah, I did a show this morning, and I was asked. You know, they said, well, if I had one piece of advice to give to anybody that was trying to build a community, I said make them feel special. I said anybody will give you any information or meet with you if you stroke their ego. You know, we all want to feel special. We all want to feel that we're important. You know,
right.
So.
And in your other books, you know, like Happily Ever After, How to Engage Audience, how did that come about and what's that about? Well,
when I got into the speaking business, after a couple of years, the market defined me as a motivational humorist. I like to say that if you laugh, it's humorous. If you don't, it's motivation. That's how you tell the difference. But that way I'm not a real humorist. I always have a way out because it can be motivation. But the market defined me as a motivational humorist because I was doing I was using humor a lot. So over time, I started to study humor and how it impacted people. And a question I get asked a lot is, wow, you speak all over the world. How do you relate to different audiences in different places? And the common denominator is through story.
Absolutely.
Because story transcends culture. So if I can tell a story in a funny way, that in that story you see your life so that you and I relate. Now the way that I tell the story, we have that same story, whether it's about family, whether it's about relationships, and that humor it builds that bond. The shortest distance between two people, according to Victor Borga, is a good laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's what you do. I mean, you have a program to teach that also, right? Happily Ever After.
Right. So it's a program that I do for a lot of professional speakers and professional facilitators about, you know, how do you really engage your audience? Because if you want your listener to remember your message, you need to anchor it to something that is emotional. And so just to spit out information doesn't work.
But it's also a skill that every leader should have, right? I mean, every leader should be able to storytell, should be able to bond. I mean, that's a huge part of leadership, to be able to bond and connect and inspire and get followers, right?
Yeah, and we talk about humility because that's so important for leaders to have. And I know you talk about humility, and you're a humble leader yourself, well, most of the time.
Sometimes.
But the importance of humility and the self-effacing humor and humility are very closely related. How can we bring the humor back on ourselves so that we can poke fun at ourselves and learn the lessons and share those lessons at our own expense? Because then what we teach our listeners and our staffs and our employees is that we're flexible, we're forgiving, we're tolerant, and then it allows them to also be willing to take more risks and share who they are.
Okay, final question. Since you spoke about lessons,
yes,
you know, what is one lesson that you learned in life that you'd like to share with our listeners? that you think is important?
One lesson.
Just one. I'm going to limit it to one here.
One lesson would be like the golden or the platinum rule, maybe a combination of both.
Okay.
Is that if you look for the best in people, you'll find the best. It goes back to the whole celebrate message, that it's acknowledging the good. If we build on our strengths and we look for what's good in people and in situations, and we go from there, then everybody wins.
Fantastic. Scott, we're a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's great
Scott
to be
Friedman here on the Leaderonomics Show.